What is up, guys? Fahir here from AwesomeDudes.com, and welcome to another C++ Unreal Engine course. And this time, the camera is a little bit different because you're watching me from there. You're used to watching me from here. But anyways, we have a cool Arkanoid game, and let me just show you what is the game because I know you hate listening to me talking like this. So let's check out the game. So I'm going to hit the play button, and basically we have the paddle, we have the ball, so we can move everything. We can move the ball left and right, or actually the paddle. If the ball falls down, as you see, then, well, we get a new ball and we can continue playing the game. So pressing space will propel the ball inside or to the game and we can, well, continue playing. I did not add the score. That will be your assignment. So it will be your assignment to add the score inside of the game. And I will give you a lot of assignments inside of this course. And as you can see, it's a simple game where you simply destroy these bricks, yada, yada, yada. There's nothing complicated to it. You get the point. You saw how things go. Anyways, as I said, I will give you a lot of assignments inside of this course. You will test your own knowledge. You will create things on your own, and it will be really, really cool because you are going to learn a lot, even though the game looks very small and simple. So I know that you hate me chit-chatting, yada, 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 so I'm going to stop the video right now, and let's jump into the course and create this cool game. Fire here from Finalizing. I will see you guys in the next video. What is up, guys? Fire from Finalizing, and we are in a new project. As you can see and you saw from the preview, we are going to create our Arkanoid or breakout game, however you want to call it. But anyways, just open your Unreal Project browser and we're going to click over here in new project. And by the way, this is Unreal Engine version 23, so 4.23 that is. So if you want to follow along with everything here, please download 4.23 version. And we're gonna go here and click on C++ because we are not gonna use blueprints. I mean, blueprints are old school. We are all about coding. I'm just kidding. I don't know what I'm talking about like this. Anyways, we're going to click this basic code. Over here, we don't want starter content. Everything here can be, as you see, desktop, maximum quality. Just here, name your project. So give name. Also over here, you are going to select where you are going to save it, yada, yada, yada. Then you're going to click on create project. And then when you are finished, you are going to see something like this right here. Now, before we proceed to do anything else, and of course you will also see this over here. So the solution inside of your Microsoft Visual Studio will be ready. And if you don't know how to set these up, please refer back to my Unreal Engine C++ tutorials on YouTube, depending on where you're watching this. So on YouTube, or if you're inside of my Game Development Academy, please go and watch the first beginner introduction to Unreal Engine course. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, what we are going to do is over here inside of the content, or we are going to right click the content and we're going to click here show in Explorer. And over here inside of the content is where we are going to import our assets. And the assets are over here. So these are the assets that I have. So materials and meshes. I'm simply going to copy them. So Control C to copy these. And let's go back. So over here in the content. And again, if you don't know where it is, let me first again copy this and go back over here. So click on the content, right click, then show in Explorer, and over here simply paste them back, and voila, there we go. So here are the assets that we have. Now, where you can download these assets along with the complete project, that link will be in the description of this video or below this video. So simply scroll a little bit down, you will see the links to download those assets and the complete project. Now, before I wrap this video up, I don't want it to be this short where I only import the assets. I'm also going to create our level. So we are going to select all of these level elements that we have from atmospheric frog, floor, light source, player start, except the player start, we're going to leave it. And I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to click on delete, and yes to all. We want to delete all. We have an empty scene now. Now before we proceed, I'm going to click here on the content and right click a new folder, and I'm going to call this maps. And I'm going to say Control S to save this map. And over here in the maps folder is where I'm going to save it. And the name is going to be gameplay. There you go. So over here, you're going to give it a name. And as you can see, I clicked on the maps folder to save it there. I'm going to click on save and we are good to go. Again, before we proceed, what I'm going to do is go here in the meshes and I'm going to drag and drop this SM background. And what I'm going to do with it is position it at 0, 0, 0 for X, Y, and the Z. And I'm also going to, first of all, click on this lock icon over here for the scale. And I'm going to change the scale for X, Y, and Z. And why am I clicking the lock icon? Well, the reason for that is I want to change X, Y, and Z to the same value, so value of 10. When I click the lock icon, it will change all three of these values, even if we only put it inside of one. So if I click now, enter for 10, you see, it has changed. And this is what we have, like, think of it like a huge ball with light or whatever. But yeah, this is going to be our level. But anyways, when you click on the lock icon, it will change all three scales, even though you just input it one scale. That's all there is to it. Now, what I'm also going to do is take the player start, and I'm going to position it 0, 0 for X and Y, and for the Z, that is going to be at 20, so position 20. And what did I do over here? So it's world outliner, here it is, player start. Let me just zoom in on the player start, voila, there you go. And the last step left for us to do is to add our wall in the game. So I'm going to put the wall in the game, and what I'm going to do over here is also reposition it. So 0, 0, 0, this is the position of our wall, and voila, there you go. So this is going to be our level. Of course, we will add later on bricks and whatnot. In the next video, we're going to start creating the paddle, which is the paddle that we can control to hit the ball. We will see that. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up because I want to make these lectures as short as possible. Fire here from Austies.com. I will see you guys in the next video. So, moving forward with our game, now we are going to create our paddle, and we're going to go here under C++ classes and click the name of our project, which is Arcanoid, and I'm going to right click over here, create a new C++ class. This one is going to be a pawn, and a pawn is an actor that can be possessed and receive input from a controller, because we're going to use a controller to control our paddle. So over here, I'm going to simply name him paddle, and of course we do need to wait for this to, generate all the classes and whatnot, yada yada yada. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time depending on how strong your computer is in terms of the components. You get the drill, you know how it goes. So over here in our paddle, we are going to go here under protected right below our begin play, and we are going to create a U property, and this one is going to be visible anywhere, so visible anywhere like this. And also this is going to be blueprint read only. There we go. Now the name of this component, or the component that we need, is going to be a U static mesh component, and it is a pointer, and I'm going to call it SM paddle like this. Now I am simply going to copy all of this here, so copy and paste it. And here we're also going to use U property, visible anywhere, but we are not going to use a U static mesh. Instead, we're going to use a U floating pawn movement like this, and this is also a pointer, and I'm going to call it floating movement like this. Now what the hell is this U floating pawn movement? What did you do, Fire? What is this? Calm down. First of all, we need to take this, and over here I need to forward declare it so that this can work. Now, what is a U floating pawn movement? Well, we're going to use this to move the pawn, basically. So if I go over here, this is what it is. Movement component updates position of associated primitive component during its tick. Floating pawn movement is a movement component that provides simple movement for any pawn class. There you go. This is what a floating pawn movement is. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's go over here below our virtual void set up player input. We're also going to create a new virtual void, and this is going to be move. So move horizontal like this, and this is going to take a float, and I'm going to call this one axis value. Now this is a parameter for our input movement. Now this is for the input movement, okay? So the first thing that we are going to do now in our CPP file of the paddle, we're going to go here on top, and we're going to include all the components that we need. First of all, we need our game framework, and this is going to be our floating pawn movement. This is what we need first. Second, we need include, and this one is going to be our components. So components slash, and this is going to be static mesh component. There you go. Now, moving forward inside of the constructor, we are going to create our paddle. So here we're going to say SM paddle, and that's going to be equal to create default sub object of type U static mesh component like this, and the name of it. So we're going to give it a name inside, and over here I'm going to simply say, I don't know, let's say SM paddle like this. Now why SM paddle? Well, I don't know. That's how the name of our mesh is. It's not important. You can name it Carl or however you want to name it. Now I'm also going to say here the root component of the components for this blueprint is going to be our SM paddle. So paddle like that. There you go. Now we are also going to set a few rules for the paddle, such as enable the gravity and all of the good stuff. So over here we're going to say SM paddle, and here I'm going to say set enable gravity. That is going to be false because we don't want to enable gravity on it. We're also going to say SM paddle dash greater than sign because this is a pointer. We're going to say set constraint mode, and this is going to be EDOF mode like this, colon, and we're going to say XZ plane. So this is going to constrain the movement of our paddle only on the X and the Z plane, which means we're not going to allow it to go up and down. Basically, that's all there is to it. Now here I'm also going to say SM paddle, and here we're going to say set collision, so collision enabled, and for the collision enabled we need to say E collision enabled, colon, query and physics, because we want this to be a solid physics body. So we're going to say collision is query and physics, and SM paddle, and over here we're going to say dash greater than sign set collision profile name, and the profile name is going to be inside of a text like this, and colon, or actually quotes, not colon, and the name is going to be physics actor. Now please make sure that you name it correctly, so this name needs to be physics actor as you see over here. Otherwise, well, it will not set that collision profile name. Now let us also add our floating movement. So floating movement is going to be equal to create default sub object of type U floating pawn movement like this, and the name we are going to give it over here inside of the text in quotes. That's going to be floating pawn movement. There you go. That's all there is to it. Now before I wrap this up, we are also going to create this over here, so our move horizontal. So right click and go here, quick actions and refactoring, and click here, create definition. And by the way, we did this already. If you followed any of my C++ Unreal Engine courses or classes, however you want to call them, we know what we are doing here. So here we're declaring a function. Over here we have included these frameworks, and I also talked about how you can find which of these to use in the include. So how can you know that you need to include this and what to write and so on and so forth. So we talked about that. So let's go back over here in our move horizontal. This is nothing complicated. We're simply going to say over here, add movement input. So add movement input. There you go. And here for the movement input, I'm going to say F vector. And for the F vector, I'm going to say on the X axis, we're going to say axis value 0.0F is going to be for the Y, 0.0F is going to be for the Z. And of course, here, I'm simply going to say comma, and we are going to say false. So did I type it right correctly? Actually, no, it's not over here. Excuse me. It's outside of it. We're going to say comma. So not one, but comma. The floating or the scale value, we're going to set that bad boy at 1.0F, and with force false. We're not going to use force on this. So there you go. This is what we did. Now over here, make sure that you add these other parameters outside of the F vector. So this is the mistake I made just now. So yeah, but anyways, this is going to move our paddle on the x-axis left and right depending on this axis value. We're going to see that. Do not worry, we're going to see that from the next video. And yeah, it's simply going to move it on the x-axis left and right, and there you go. It's not going to change the scale. The scale is going to be 1. Are we going to add force to it? No, we are not going to add force to it. So Control Shift and B to compile this. Let's make sure that we don't have any oopsies, any mistakes, however you want to call them. I don't know, man. So there you go. We don't have any of these. Build has succeeded. And by the way, it's under build and build solution. This is what I just did. And now we're going to go in content, and I'm going to right click inside and create a new folder. I'm going to call this folder blueprints, like this. And inside of the blueprints folder, I'm going to right click and create a new blueprint class. But over here, I'm not going to select actor or pawn or whatnot. I'm going to click on this all classes, and here in the search bar, we are going to filter for the paddle, and there you go. So select the paddle, click on select, and I'm going to call this bad boy paddle and underscore BP. So paddle blueprint, and double click it, and I'm going to dock it over here. And as you can see, we have the paddle and we have the floating movement, and that's all we need. So let's go here in the paddle. You see here for the static mesh of the paddle, so from here up to here, we are going to click on the none, and we're going to select here paddle, and this is our paddle. So yeah, there you go. We need to compile and save everything that we do in a blueprint, so make sure that you don't forget to do that. So make sure you don't forget to do that. And basically that's all there is to it. This is our paddle. Now if I do something like this, so if I put the paddle over here, and let's say I position it 0, 0, 20, so it's 20 like this, and if I save and if I hit the play button, this is what we see. But if I eject myself, this is what we see, which is not what we want to see. Now, what the hell is this over here? First of all, this is our default pawn, which is a sphere. We do not want that. We want the default pawn to be this paddle. Now, in order to do that, first of all, I'm going to delete the paddle that I have just added inside of our game, as you just saw, and I'm going to go here in the blueprints, and I'm going to right click and create a new blueprint class. And over here we can create our game mode base. So I'm going to call this one Arkanoid underscore game mode underscore BP. And why do we need this? Well, you just saw if I hit the play button and if I eject myself, we have the default sphere. This sphere over here is our default character that we are going to control when we run our game. Now, this is not what we want. We don't want to control this because we want to control our paddle. So in order to do that, we need to go into project settings, and project setting is under edit, and here it is, project settings. So you will open this window over here, and then we're going to go over here where it says maps and modes. And over here where it says default game mode, you see it is set to the default game mode base. And here below we can select the default pawn class, which is basically the default player that's going to be controlled, the HUD, the player controller, yada yada yada. So over here I need to right click, or actually simply click, and I need to select this, the one that we have just created, this Arkanoid underscore game mode underscore BP, the one that we have just created. And now that we can do that, from here, you see all of these we can edit now. So here for the default pawn, instead of having the default pawn, I can simply select my paddle BP. So now I have selected the paddle blueprint, which is this one that we have just created. So now if I hit the play button and if I eject myself, we have the paddle, you see? It's not that sphere that we saw a moment ago. So you see, we have the paddle. Now, of course, we are still not done. We need to have a camera that will look at our game like this instead of like this. So this is what we see when we run our game, but actually we want to see something like this. So we are going to add a custom camera to do that, but we also need to be able to control our player. We need to be able to control the player. When I say the player, I mean the paddle. Now, in order to control the paddle, we are going to use the player controller to achieve that. So again, we are going to do all of that from the next video. Until then, Fahir here from OzDudes.com. I will catch you guys in the next video. What's cracking, people? Moving forward with our game, the first thing that we're going to do now is go over here inside of this modes. You see on the left side, and here where it says search classes, we're going to filter for the camera and drag and drop this camera bad boy over here. Now there's going to be our camera actor that we're going to use to display our game. Now what I'm going to do is select the camera actor inside of the world outliner over here. You see what I'm drawing this? So here we are going to set its position. So X I'm going to say 0. and Y I'm going to say 520, and the Z I'm going to say 190. And then over here we are also going to rotate this bad boy. So on the Z axis we are going to rotate him negative 90 degrees, and you can see over here we have a short preview what we see. You see over here we have a nice little preview what we see. Now what I'm also going to do over here is that we're going to change the projection mode from perspective to orthographic. And again, look at this over here, what we see. This is what the camera will represent. Now over here, the ortho width is going to be 440 or 450, excuse me, for the size of it. Now here I'm not going to touch anything. The aspect ratio I am going to change from 1.7 to simply 1, and there you go. Now simply save this, Control S to save it. You can go over here in File and also Save All to save everything. Now if, again, pay attention over here, this is the preview, what we will see. Now if I run the game now, again, we don't see like that. You see, we don't see. If I go and possess the player again, we don't see what the camera just saw. So how can we fix that? Well, in order to fix that, we need to go over here in C++ classes, and we need to create a class. So over here I'm going to say new C++ class, and over here I'm going to click on show all classes, because we are going to create a class that's a player controller. So over here we are going to filter for a player controller and click on the player controller. So over here, this is the bad boy, click on next, and I'm going to call this dude, let's say paddle underscore player underscore controller. So this is the name of our class. Now this is going to be the one that we are going to use to control our paddle. Simple as that. And we are also later on going to create a blueprint out of it, yada yada yada. You will see all of the good stuff. So let's go over here in our player controller.h or paddle player controller h. You see over here public a player controller. It will inherit from that, yada yada yada. Now what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to say class a ball like this, but we did not create it. I'm just going to put it here as a reference, and you see over here I added a comment, so this will not be compiled. Now the reason for that is later on we are going to use this in our game. When we create the ball, we are going to launch it from within this bad boy, so we will see how that goes, but just as a reference so that I don't forget to do that later on. Now we are also going to say here a paddle player controller. This is going to be our constructor, so declare a constructor over here. Over here I'm also going to say u function like this. And this is going to be virtual void and set up input component and like this, and we're going to say override because we are going to override this bad boy. Also below that we're going to have protected, and we're going to have a begin play, so virtual void begin play like that, and this is also going to be override. There we go. And void, so not voyeur, void move horizontal, which is going to take a float axis value. Did I type horizontal correctly? Yes, I did. Thank you. I can spell. And this is everything we need at the moment. Below over here, so below is, or below, simply here I'm going to say ball references and ball variables that we will add later on. So what we need to do. First of all, I'm going to right click on begin play, and I'm going to implement that. So create a definition of begin play. I am also going to go over here, quick actions and refactoring. I'm going to set up input component, move horizontal, do the exact same thing. Let's go over here. Voila, there you go. Now we also need to do the same thing here for the paddle. So quick actions and refactoring, create declaration definition. And there you go. So simple as that. Make sure that you save everything over here. And let's go back. So this is our constructor. Our begin play, I'm going to put it above our input component. There you go. So above the input component. And let's do some magic. So in the constructor, we are not going to do anything. Inside of our begin play, we are going to do wonders. But before we do those wonders, we do need to include some things over here. So here we are going to include Kismet, not kiss, Kismet, backslash, gameplay statics. There you go. We're also going to include over here in quotes camera, not camera, it's camera slash, and we're going to say camera actor, not camera component, but camera actor. Thank you. And it's camera actor.h. And the last step is to include over here, so include our paddle. So paddle H, and we will also need to include our ball.h, but we still did not create that, as I already mentioned. But as a reference, so that I don't forget to do it later on, but I'm going to comment it out so that I do not forget that. So let's go over here in our begin play. First things first, I'm going to say here T array, and it's going to be array of A actors and A actors pointers, that is. And I'm going to say camera, so camera actors. So I'm going to get all cameras in our game. So I'm going to say here U gameplay statics, like this, colon, get all actors of class, and the class is going to be, and over here we're going to say get world because we are going to get it inside of the world, and the class, or which type of class, you see, get all actors of class, basically get all actors inside of this scene that are type of this class that we are going to say, and the class is going to be a camera actor, colon, static class, open, close parentheses. And over here, we are going to set where we want to store this. So we're going to store that inside of our camera actors. You see over here, we're going to store that inside of camera actors. So now that we have all of our cameras, and basically we are only going to get one because we added only one, which is the camera actor over here. You see, that's the one camera we have inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say F view target transition params, and I'm going to say params. Now this is a requirement as a parameter because we are going to say set view target, basically which camera is going to be the one that's going to see our game or display our game to our character, actually to the player playing the game. So we are going to see over here camera actors, and the actor or the camera that's at the 0th index, which means the first camera, and we're going to pass here our params as a parameter because this is required from us. And Control Shift B just so that we can compile this. And let's test it out to see if this actually works and if I'm not lying to you. Simple as that. What else can I tell you? And you see that the build has succeeded. Everything is okay. So if I go back over here, if I hit the play button, no. Apparently I have lied to you. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. I'm just kidding. I didn't lie to you because we do need to go over here inside of our blueprints and we need to right click and create another blueprint class. And from here we are going to filter for paddle player controller. There we go. Here is the bad boy. So now select him from here where we have filtered, and let's go over here and create a class. I'm going to say paddle underscore player controller underscore BP to denote that this is our blueprint. That's all we need to do in order to create it. But now we need to go in the project settings, and over here you see player controller class. It's set to the default player controller when you run the game. So we need to click on the drop down list and simply select the paddle player controller BP. So now the paddle player controller BP will be the one that's gonna be our controller, and then it will run all of this code that we have inside. So if I go back now and if I hit the play button, bam, look at what's happening. Look at the camera. I don't know why I said it like this. I don't know. Don't ask me in the comments below. But yeah, you see here we have our paddle, we have our, you see over here our whatever, these walls, yada yada yada. You get the point. You get the point. So let's go over here and continue. So the next step is for us to bind the input. And before I bind the input, we do need to go and set up the input. So project settings. So again, project settings and input. And here we have the action mappings and axis mappings. For the action mappings over here, I have clicked on this plus button over here, which has created this action mapping that I'm going to call launch. So launch, not lunch, but launch. And we're going to filter over here for space, and the space bar is going to be the button that I want to press to detect this action mapping. Now over here for the axes mapping, so let's go. And over here below, so we are going to have move horizontal. So move horizontal, there you go. Now for this one, we're going to click on this now plus button over here. So 1, 2, 3. Now we have 4 of these. So the first one, let's go on our keyboard. It's gonna be R key code A. The second one over here, let's go on the keyboard, is gonna be key code D. This one over here is gonna be under keyboard, and we're going to have left. and this one is under keyboard, and we're going to have right. This left and right are the arrows. Now for the A over here, we're going to set the scale to -1, and also here for the left, we're going to set that to -1 because we're moving to the left side, and the left side is the negative side. Simple as that. Let's go back now. So let's go back over here, and what we need to do in this setup input component is, first of all, we need to call here super, colon, and we need to say set up. So set up input, set up input component like this. So this is the first thing that we need to call. So set up our input component. Now let me just compile and save this so that we can make sure that this actually works, even though it is throwing an error for us. Because sometimes, you know, and we talked about this, you see it over here, build has succeeded, but it is throwing an error. Class A control has no member, blah, 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 blah. But it's telling us here that we have basically an error, but here the build has succeeded, so trust when the build has succeeded. I don't know why this is showing, don't even ask me, I'm not even going to bother to try and figure out what this is, okay? Next, we're going to say here, enable input. So enable input this, which means it will enable the input on this player controller so that when we press something, we will be able to detect that input inside of the player controller. So now let's bind our move horizontal to the input. So I'm going to say input component like this, and we're going to say dash greater than sign, bind axes, not action, but axes like this. And we're going to bind the move horizontal, which is the name of the axis over here. So this is the name, so copy that name, and we're going to bind that. And we're going to bind it inside of this, and we are going to copy this name over here, and with an and sign paste it, which means that when we press the key that is connected to move horizontal, which are the A, D, left and right keys, we are going to execute the function called move horizontal. And this axis value is actually going to be this over here, the scale parameter that we have. So there you go. There you go. So inside of the move horizontal is where we are going to actually move our pawn, which is the paddle. So over here, we're going to say auto, and I'm going to call this bad boy my pawn, and that's going to be equal to, I'm going to cast that into a paddle, and I'm going to cast get the pawn, so get my pawn. And this auto, what the hell is this auto? Well, auto is going to detect the value or the type of variable that's on the right side, because you know that we need to, for example, say f vector, and let's say my vector is equal to f vector like this, for example, 0, 0, 0. But, you know, we need to declare the variable over here, the same type as the variable over here that we add. But we can also use auto, and auto will also work in terms of it will automatically detect the type of variable that's on the right side, which means it will set this value or this variable to be the same type. So that is what we are doing over here. So we are casting my pawn into the, well, paddle, because we want to access the paddle, and we want to test here if my pawn, so if we do have the pawn over here, we're simply going to say my pawn dash greater than sign move horizontal, passing the axis value that is right over here. And we know that inside of the paddle CPP, you see move horizontal will simply add movement input with the vector, which has the axis value, which will be the value for the X to move the paddle left and right. And over here we have also, as you can see, the other parameters that we have explained previously. Now, control should be to make sure this works, or go under build and build solution to, again, make sure that this works. Now, one thing that I also want to point out is that you see over here, build has succeeded. I want you, this is your first assignment with this video, I want you to rewrite this, because this can be done in less code. We don't have to, every single time when we press the A, D, left or right key, we don't have to create or cast a paddle or cast our pawn to the paddle. So we don't have to do that. That's why I want you to rewrite this code so that it is better optimized. I'm not gonna say that this is going to like destroy your game. No, it's not. But you can write it better. Why every single time should we like cast this into a paddle because there is no need to do that. But please rewrite it. That is your first assignment. Let's go back over here and try to test it out. So if I hit the play button, you see now I'm pressing the A and D key, and now left, this is right, now left, and the paddle is moving. This works, but the paddle is a little bit fast. What I'm going to do is go in the paddle blueprint, floating movement. I'm going to set the maximum speed, let's say to 500, and compile and save that. And as I said, the floating movement, or the, you see, floating pawn movement component is going to control our movement, as you can see. So over here, I set the maximum speed to 500. Let's see if that will do the trick. Yes, it moves a little bit faster. Now, of course, you can set the value to whichever you want when it comes to the speed. But yeah, basically, that's all there is to it. Fire here from awesometunes.com. Make sure that you Control-Shift-S to save everything, or File and Save All. And if there are some questions about this lecture, something is not clear, please ask in the comment below. Till then, Fire here from awesometunes.com. Again, I said that, and I will see you guys in the next video. The next step in our game is to create the ball so that we can hit it with our paddle and start breaking the bricks that we still didn't create. But let's start creating the ball. So over here inside of our C++ classes, I'm going to right click and create a new C++ class, and this one is going to be an actor, and we're going to click on next over here, and I'm simply going to call it ball. And let's create a class. You know the drill. We need to wait until the compiler, you see, compiling new C++ code, takes mercy upon our mere mortal soul. And in the meantime, I can sing to you like yada 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 yada. I need to bring a guitar or something, you know, so that when we wait things like this, I can sing to you, you know, it will be better. Just kidding, but yeah. You see how it goes. So let's wait. Hopefully it will finish. Come on, finish. Come on. This is awkward. Thank you. Thank you. So now we can open this over here. So we have the ball.h and we have the ball.cpp file. Now the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to declare the functions, and I had issues talking, that we are going to use. So right here below the ball, you see in the public section, below the ball constructor, I am going to create our virtual void launch. And not launch, it's launch. Thank you. There you go. And this is a function that we are going to use to launch or propel our ball into the game. And also here we're going to have a boolean that I'm going to say ball launched, that is going to denote if we have launched the ball or not. We will need this because we don't want to be able to launch the ball multiple times. That is the only reason. Now over here below our begin play, we are going to create our U property. So over here I'm going to say U property. There you go, like this. And this is going to be visible anywhere. And it's also going to be blueprint read only. There you go. Now this one is going to be U static mesh component, which is a pointer, and I'm going to call this bad boy SM ball, like this. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to copy this and paste it below, because we are also going to have a project movement or projectile movement component. So U projectile movement component, there you go. This is also a pointer, and I'm going to call it projectile movement. There you go. Now we do need to forward declare this. So over here I am going to say class like this and simply declare our projectile movement component. That's all there is to it. And over here below our virtual void tick, we are going to create a U function like this, and this is going to be a U static mesh component, which is, well, returning a static mesh component, and we are going to say over here get ball. That's all there is to it. Now before we proceed in the .cpp file over here, I'm going to click on the launch, right click, that is quick actions and refactoring, and create a definition of it. And I'm going to do the same thing of get ball, so right click, quick actions refactoring, there you go. And now we can go back over here. So here is our launch, and I'm going to move it down. So I'm going to move it from here and below our tick. This is where I'm going to put it. Now before we proceed, we do need to import some things or include them. So over here we are going to include, and the first one is going to be components. There you go, backslash, and this is going to be static mesh component, so static mesh component.h, and include and in quotes game framework and backslash, and this one is going to be projectile movement component so that we can actually use them in our class. .cpp file, that is. So inside of over here, inside of the constructor, the first thing that we are going to do is I'm going to say smball is going to be equal to create default sub object of type u static mesh component, there we go, with the name inside of a text. So we need to, in quotes, pass the name, and the name I'm simply going to say ball. Now, the next step is I'm going to say root component is going to be equal to our smball, so the root component of the components inside of our blueprint when we create a blueprint out of our ball. Now, what we are also going to do is we are going to say smball, and over here, dash greater than sign, simulate physics, so set simulate physics, that is, over here. And I'm going to say here true because we are going to allow it to simulate physics. We need to, because otherwise we will not be able to create the bounce effect. So the next step over here is smball, so smball like this, dash greater than sign, set enable gravity. That's going to be false because we are not going to allow gravity. Gravity pulls our ball down. We don't want that. We want the ball to, you know, not be affected by gravity, which means it will have like 0 weight and it will move freely on the level. We are also going to say smball, and from here set constraint mode, and that mode is going to be EDOF mode, colon, XZ plane. So we are going to constrain the movement only on the XZ plane. We're also going to say SM underscore ball dash greater than sign set collision enabled, and inside we're going to say E collision enabled dash or colon, excuse me, query and physics, because we need this to be a physics body and behave like a physics body. And the last step is our SM ball